After receiving the new assignment, Eli didn't feel any particular excitement. Though weary of these assignments, he knew this wasn't the first, nor would it be the last. He boarded the ship and sighed heavily, pondering whether he deserved this fate. Working for the Star Alliance, one of the most powerful mercenary organizations in the galaxy, meant tasks were endless. Despite this, the job paid the bills, and he hoped to save enough money to leave this chaotic life behind soon. The mission was to be carried out at night on the planet Orus, where the nights were exceptionally dark. Eli, along with 4 other guards and a pilot, arrived at the designated rendezvous point. Eli suspected the prisoner they were to escort this time was someone significant, but he didn't care about the details. His job was to ensure the prisoner accepted their fate quietly and did not resist during the transfer. A bright light broke the darkness, illuminating the abandoned building they were waiting by. Eli shielded his eyes with his hand. Damn Reptor. Not only are they late, but they also make a grand spectacle out of it. One of the guards beside him muttered. Eli nodded, acknowledging that dealing with the Reptor was never pleasant. Covered in scales, with immense strength and keen senses, they were formidable hunters. However, their flamboyant style often attracted unnecessary attention. 2 Reptor disembarked from the ship and began scanning the surroundings. They spotted the Star Alliance guards, still somewhat dazzled by the ship's lights. One of the Reptor let out a series of low growls, and more Reptor emerged from the ship, half dragging a bound humanoid figure. The Reptor venom contained a chemical that could paralyze many species, making them excellent bounty hunters. Although the prisoners seemed to have suffered from the venom, they still retained considerable mobility. Impressive, Eli thought, recognizing the prisoner as particularly resilient. The Reptor brought the prisoner to the Star Alliance guards, and Eli identified the creature as human. He had heard legends about humans. Eli tried to stay composed. He had to appear ruthless, but honestly, he was curious about this human. He wondered if the stories about humans were true. Could they really survive in extreme environments? Were their strength and intelligence truly exceptional? He kept these questions to himself as the other guards roughly loaded the human onto the transport vehicle. After exchanging the bounty, Eli silently followed, ensuring he could observe the human. The transport was packed with guards and the prisoner. Eli thought this was to intimidate the prisoner. 1 guard and the pilot sat in the front, 2 guards sat closest to the door, and another guard sat on either side of the prisoner. Even if there were thoughts of escape, no being had a chance. Eli was secretly pleased to be assigned a seat next to the prisoner. The other guard, Jar, sat on the opposite side of the bench, usually silent but did not object when Eli quietly started questioning the prisoner after a few minutes. I shouldn't talk to you, but I've never seen a human. My name is Eli. What's yours? Sam. My name is Sam Carter. The name was unfamiliar to Eli, but he wasn't one to judge alien names. Can you really survive in extreme environments? Sam looked at him curiously. Well, yes, it depends on the environment. Do you know other humans who can survive in extreme conditions? The human stared at him for a moment in the darkness, then smiled slightly. Of course. We have many scientists and explorers who specialize in surviving in extreme environments. Wow, that's amazing. Eli straightened up, drawing a glance from another guard. He waited for a while, then leaned closer to the human and whispered, Sam, I have many questions to ask you. I hope we can meet under better circumstances. I hope so too, Sam smiled. Eli straightened up and sat silently for a while, chastising himself. The first question he asked after meeting a human was about survival in extreme environments. His mind raced for another question, a better question. After all, who knew when he would meet another human again? Can you really survive in temperatures below freezing? Eli tried to make himself sound more knowledgeable. Sam just stared at him, his face filled with a sort of amused joy. Finally, he laughed, his white teeth glinting in the dim light. You know, of all the people who have interrogated me, your style is absolutely unique. He's too curious for his own good. It'll get him killed someday, Jar muttered from the other end of the bench. If he keeps it up, he'll die. Eli received the sidelong warning and fell silent, pondering his current life. He couldn't wait to leave the Star Alliance and start his own life, his own adventures. But for now, he was stuck in the dirty work of the Star Alliance. It wasn't a pleasant job, often waking up in the middle of the night from nightmares, reliving what he had seen or been ordered to do. He hated it all, but he had to stay. It was the only way to save enough money to leave. He had to leave. Few had managed it, but he would. He had to. Sam gently tapped his arm, pulling Eli from his reverie. He looked down at Sam, who wore a mysterious smile. Sam moved his bound arms to draw Eli's attention, his fingers oddly positioned. With a quick motion, his fingers made a slight snapping sound. Oh wait, that's not quite right. He adjusted his fingers and snapped again, this time producing a clear, loud snap. He looked at Eli's surprised reaction and laughed, snapping his fingers several times in quick succession. Jack grumbled, "You two need to quiet down. You've caused enough trouble, human. We're almost there, and then you won't find anything funny anymore." This silenced them for a while, but Eli's mind buzzed with questions. He had so much to say to Sam. After a few minutes of silence, he spoke quietly again. "I've only heard stories about humans. Most are unbelievable, but you can still move and talk after being exposed to Reptaran venom. Are the other stories true?" Sam smiled brightly in the dim cabin light, but said nothing when another guard came to check on them. Eli straightened up as the guard announced they were nearing the Alliance headquarters before returning to his seat. The silence felt heavier than usual to Eli. He had worked for the Star Alliance for over 3 years and had never felt such sympathy for a prisoner. He feared for the human's fate. He glanced at Sam. The human's smile had faded slightly, replaced by a relaxed, almost complacent expression. Eli looked closely. How could he be so calm? Perhaps he didn't fully understand what would happen once they reached the headquarters. "Eli, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you remind me of a stuffed toy I had as a child." Sam's voice made Eli turn sharply. His thoughts had been swirling around the seemingly carefree creature's fate beside him. When Eli didn't respond, Sam continued, "It was a strange toy my aunt won for me at a county fair when I was very young. We never figured out what kind of animal it was, but I loved that toy. Called it Fluffy. Very creative, I know. I took it everywhere, kept it for many years. Might still be in my parents' attic." Sam paused, sighed softly, and smiled. "Anyway, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you look like a friend." Eli felt a complex mix of emotions. It was odd for a bound prisoner to say such things. He was supposed to be intimidating. No prisoner dared speak to him like this. In fact, aside from perhaps fearful whimpers, no prisoner dared speak to him at all. Part of Eli was indignant at the human's words, but a small part felt an inexplicable joy. Humans were said to be able to connect with anyone or anything under the right circumstances. Although this seemed far from the right circumstances, he couldn't suppress the joy of being considered a human friend. This only made the human's fate seem more tragic and personal in many ways. This was undoubtedly a double-edged sword. The transport suddenly stopped. The Alliance guards outside opened the door. The guards by the door jumped out, readying their weapons while Jack and Eli escorted Sam out. Almost immediately, a guard made a mistake, momentarily loosening Sam's bindings. Sam knocked down the 2 nearest guards. The remaining guards quickly reacted, grabbing him, but Sam brushed off one guard's hand, wrapped his bound hands around another guard's neck, and pulled down. With a series of unsettling cracks, something or several things broke, and the guard collapsed heavily. The human crouched, spinning to slam into the guards behind him, knocking them over, then elbowed the sides of their heads. Another guard went down. The first guard Sam had knocked down stood up and grabbed him. After a brief struggle, they fell too. Eli had just disembarked and couldn't see what was happening, but when he did, he saw Reptaran darts embedded in the guard's neck and arm. Eli stared at the human in shock. He wasn't just exposed to the venom, but injected with it, and still conscious. He removed it himself. That required medical personnel to remove safely. What was he thinking? Sam instinctively turned to face Eli. Eli didn't move. Eventually, Sam relaxed his defensive posture slightly. Eli saw more guards approaching from the headquarters entrance. Maybe they didn't fully understand what was happening, as their formation looked formal rather than urgent, but that wouldn't last. If Sam wanted to escape, he had to act now. The pilot's keycard should be up front. You can still escape, Eli said. Sam frowned, still ready to attack. Why? Shouts came from behind, alarms being called, and several people shouting about the prisoner escaping. The human moved towards the pilot. Why are you helping me? You're one of them. I hate it here. I don't want them to hurt you. Eli's voice sounded so weak he wasn't sure Sam heard him. He must have, because as he opened the pilot's door and threw the pilot to the ground, he shouted, "Get in?" What? You're different. My first impressions are never wrong. Sam struggled to start the transport. Eli ran to the door. If you don't hate it here now, you will once they think you helped me escape. So get in. But the transport's engine remained silent. Eli looked back. The guards were almost there. He suddenly realized the only reason they hadn't started shooting was that they thought Eli was still trying to stop the prisoner. Once they realized he wasn't on their side anymore, that would change. Eli turned to Sam, who was still struggling with the transport. Move. He pushed the human aside and jumped into the seat. I can drive this thing. The transport rocked, and the other guards started shooting. Okay, they definitely got it. Once the engine roared, Eli shifted gears and slammed the accelerator. The transport lurched forward, then steadied. Eli swerved around a stone marker to avoid the gunfire, aiming for the headquarters outer gate and flooring it. Floor it, man. Once we're clear, we'll be safe. Through the gate, they would be safe. Sam watched the security gate close as Eli floored it. It would be close, but they might just make it. This was really happening. How had it all happened so fast? As they reached the gate, it was nearly closed. With a crash, the transport hit the gate, barely squeezing through. The outer armor scraped the gate with a sharp protest, but they broke free and plunged into the night. Wow! Sam cheered. He patted Eli on the shoulder with his bound hands. Man, you drive fast. That was awesome. We made it. We made it. Eli couldn't believe his ears or his eyes. He was out. This was real. His long-held wish had come true, but he felt a surge of panic. He was out, but now he was a fugitive from the Star Alliance. He was as good as dead. The celebrating human must have sensed his growing fear. Hey man, don't worry. We're out. What's your name? I need to know what to call you. Eli felt so tense he could barely speak, but finally, he uttered his name, or more like whispered it. Eli. My name is Eli. Oh my God. I'm going to die. What have I done? Eli, look at me. No, keep your eyes on the road. Just listen to me. You can't go back now. You know what will happen if you go back, better than I do. Eli gripped the controls tightly. Sam continued, It's done. You're free. Do you hear me? You hated that place. Now you're free. They'll come for me. They'll come for you. We'll still die. Eli saw the human quietly sitting beside him and sighed. Eli glanced at Sam, then focused on the road, dodging trees and obstacles, trying to hide from being tracked. Eli, if you want, I need someone like you. Stick with me, and you'll never have to worry about the Alliance again. They caught you before, they'll catch you again. You only escaped because of me, right? Now, I have you. Besides, those bounty hunters caught me by luck. See if I ever attend an art exhibition hosted by an informant again. After a few minutes of silence, Eli felt his fear slowly leave his muscles. He took a few deep breaths. Once his heartbeat returned to almost normal, he finally said, Where do I go now? Huh? Oh right. Away from here. I have a plan. Eli nodded silently. After a while, he realized what the human had said. Wait, you said you need me? He felt a surge of hope at the implication. Sam looked at him again. Oh yes. I mean, if you want to. I need someone like you on my team. I think you'll fit in, and there's strength in numbers. You can do whatever you want. Eli took another deep breath, almost wanting to laugh or cry. He wasn't sure, but he did nod, smiling. Yes, I want this. I really want this. As they continued on, Sam occasionally gave directions or instructions. Eli followed silently, thinking of more questions to ask his new human friend, marveling at the new life ahead. He was free, and he had already made a powerful friend. Whatever lay ahead, he was ready to face it.